When I fell on the stairs and injured my arm, my family believed I had lost consciousness. I lay on the floor while my wife whispered, "This could be our moment, he's no good to us now. We can say he fell while drinking and hurry things along." My daughter answered, "We'll finally be free." I bit my tongue until it bled. When they came, they were in for a big shock. To give some context, I'm a 42-year-old man named Theodore, and my wife Jade is 39. We've been married for 14 years and have a 19-year-old daughter, Zoe, who's in her first year of college. I thought things were fine, perhaps not perfect, but acceptable. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs. Over the past few years, Jade had grown more distant and less loving, often glued to her phone and turning the screen away as I walked past. Definitely a red flag. But I trusted her. As for Zoe, well, teenagers can be moody. She went from being a daddy's girl to hardly acknowledging my presence. I worked long hours, sometimes 60 a week, coming home worn out but still trying to be there for them, still trying to be the man they needed. Then came last Tuesday. I had been asking Jade to fix the loose carpet on the stairs for months. She kept saying she would but never did. I even bought the materials to do it myself, but she insisted she wanted to handle it. Looking back, that was a warning sign. That morning, I was half asleep heading downstairs when my foot caught that same loose spot. I tried to grab the railing but missed, and down I went, hard. My arm twisted beneath me with a horrifying crack, and my head slammed against the wall. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, as if someone had hit my arm with a baseball bat. I couldn't even scream, only a strange, garbled sound escaped my lips. I lay at the bottom of the stairs, my vision blurry and struggling to stay conscious. I heard Jade rushing down. "Theodore! Oh my God!" She knelt beside me to check my pulse. I tried to speak but couldn't. There was something in her gaze that felt wrong. Then Zoe came down and asked, "What happened?" Not panicked or scared, just curious. Jade replied, "He fell down the stairs. I think he's knocked out." That's when my entire world shattered. I wasn't out cold. I was dazed and in horrible pain, yet completely aware. They had no clue. Jade lowered her voice to a strange whisper I'd never heard before. "This could be our chance. He's no use to us now. We could claim he fell while drunk and quicken the process." My mind couldn't grasp what I was hearing. Speed up what process? And then Zoe, my little girl, knelt next to me and said something that pierced my heart. "We'll finally be free." Free? From what? From me. The guy who worked overtime for years to pay for her dance lessons and now her college tuition. I wanted to scream, to jump up and demand answers, but some instinct kept me quiet. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood, forcing myself to lie still as they continued their conversation. "How long until the papers are finalized?" Zoe asked. 2 months, maybe 3, Jade replied. "It depends if he contests it." But Jade added, "If we can prove he's unstable or has a drinking issue." They were planning to divorce me and portray me as a drunk. I don't even drink, except for a beer while watching sports. Zoe asked, "Did you move the money as we discussed?" Jade replied, "Most of it. There's still about $20,000 in the joint account. I'll transfer it next week when I set up the new account. He never checks the statements anyway." They were stealing my money. I lay there, listening to them plot the demise of my life for what felt like hours, though it was probably only 5 minutes. They discussed my finances, my house, how they'd be better off without me, and Jade mentioned that someone was already interested in her. Then Jade said, "We should call an ambulance. It would look suspicious if we didn't. Should we change his clothes first to make it seem like he's been drinking?" Zoe suggested, "No time. Just grab that whiskey bottle from the cabinet and spill some on his shirt." I felt droplets hitting my chest. They were staging me as a drunk. When the paramedics showed up, they suddenly became the concerned wife and daughter. "He's been under so much stress lately," Jade told them. "Sometimes he drinks in the morning. I've been so worried." I wanted to scream that it was all lies, but again, something inside told me to wait, to let this play out. The paramedics placed me in the ambulance with Jade holding my hand in an act worthy of an Oscar. At the hospital, X-rays confirmed what I already knew: broken arm and mild concussion. When the doctor asked about the smell of alcohol, I finally spoke. "I wasn't drinking, it must have spilled when I fell," I said. Jade's eyes widened slightly, but she quickly recovered. "You were definitely drinking, honey. Don't you remember? You've been struggling lately." She turned to the doctor with a concerned expression. "He doesn't always remember when he drinks." The doctor seemed doubtful but didn't press the matter. They put my arm in a cast, prescribed pain medications, and sent me home with instructions to rest. During the car ride, Jade kept asking if I remembered falling, testing to see what else I might have heard. I played dumb, telling her I only remembered slipping and waking up in the ambulance. She said, "That's totally normal with concussions." That night, I lay in bed pretending to be asleep while my mind raced. 14 years with a daughter I thought loved me. All a lie. Were they really planning to divorce me, take my money, and paint me as an unstable drunk? I checked our bank accounts on my phone while Jade was in the shower. Sure enough, our savings that should have had over $50,000 was down to less than $20,000. The last withdrawal, just 3 days ago, was for $40,000. I scrolled through our transaction history with trembling hands. Small withdrawals over several months, thousands disappearing bit by bit. How hadn't I noticed? Because I trusted her. Because I was working myself to exhaustion for them. When Jade came to bed, she asked if I needed anything, feigning concern. I wanted to scream at her, but instead, I just said no and pretended to sleep. But I didn't really sleep. I stayed up all night thinking and planning. They thought I was useless now, broken, a problem to solve. They had no idea what I was capable of. Here's the thing about me that my lovely wife and daughter seem to have forgotten. I've always been the planner in the family, the one who thinks multiple steps ahead, the one who solves problems. They had just become problem number one. The next morning, I told Jade I needed more rest and would stay home from work for a few days. She seemed thrilled at the idea. "Of course, honey. Whatever you need. Whatever gets me out of your way, right?" As soon as she left for work, I began making calls. First to our bank, then to a lawyer, and finally to a private investigator I found online. I acted more hurt than I was, letting them think I was just a broken man trying to cope with his injury while I gathered evidence and made plans of my own. It's been a week of pretending, a week of listening to them whisper when they thought I was asleep, a week of uncovering just how deep their betrayal ran. Tonight, Jade is taking Zoe back to college. They'll be gone for 2 days, and that's when I'll start putting my plan into action. They wanted to be free of me. They wanted my money, my house, my life. Well, they're about to learn a valuable lesson about the man they're so eager to destroy. I'm not useless. I'm not broken. I'm just getting started. Update asterisk. Thanks for all the support and advice. Many of you asked for updates, so here's what has happened in the month since I found out my wife and daughter were scheming against me. Remember how I said Jade and Zoe were heading back to campus for 2 days? Well, those 48 hours changed everything. As soon as their car left the driveway, I went into full detective mode. My broken arm made everything take twice as long, but the rage fueled me. First stop: Jade's home office. I'd never really gone through her things before. Boundaries, right? Funny how that changes when someone is plotting your financial ruin. Her desk drawers were locked, but the key was in the most obvious place, taped under her pencil tray. What I found made my stomach drop: bank statements from an account I'd never seen before. 5 years of statements revealed a balance of $112,000. She'd been siphoning money from our joint accounts. Money I earned working those long hours while she redecorated the house for the 3rd time. But wait, it gets better. There were 3 more accounts. Smaller amounts, but still, we're talking almost $200,000 total that she'd hidden from me. $200,000 that was supposed to be our money, our retirement, our future. I took photos of everything with my phone. My hands were shaking so badly some came out blurry, but evidence is evidence. Next, I found a folder labeled Z College. Inside weren't college papers. It was divorce documents already filled out but not submitted. They claimed I had alcohol dependency and anger management issues. Me, the guy who drinks maybe once a month and has never raised my voice at them. I sat on the floor of her office, trying not to throw up. The weight of the betrayal felt physical on my chest. But then anger kicked in. Anger is a powerful motivator. I went through everything, including their emails, since they had both saved their passwords on our home computer. Amateur hour, ladies. Their messages and search histories revealed that Jade had been chatting with someone named Nelson for over a year, her boss. Hundreds of messages, nothing explicitly sexual but definitely an emotional affair. Lots of, "My husband doesn't get me," and "I can't wait to start my new life." He'd been encouraging her to leave me for months. And Zoe, my precious daughter, had been in on it the entire time. There were messages between them strategizing how to maximize what they could get from me before the divorce. Zoe had persuaded Jade to wait until tuition for her sophomore year was paid before filing the papers. My money! I found a document where they listed our assets. The house, cars, my retirement accounts, all divided up with little notes like, "He won't fight for this," and "easy to liquidate." They had even taken photos of empty liquor bottles they had planted around the house when I wasn't home, building their false narrative of me being some closet drunk. Who does that? By midnight, I was sitting in the living room surrounded by printouts and screenshots, planning my counterattack. That's when I realized I needed professional help. Not therapy, although I probably need that too. I meant legal help. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but one with a reputation as a fierce advocate. Her name was Ren, and she meant business. I shared everything I found, and she began taking notes, creating a plan that involved patience. I needed to protect my finances without raising suspicion, gather more evidence, document everything, and prepare for the confrontation. The following weeks were the hardest acting job of my life. I pretended to be depressed about my injury, letting them think I was taking more pain meds than prescribed, acting foggy and distracted, all while setting my trap. First, I opened new bank accounts at a different bank, then I started moving money gradually. A few thousand here and there, not enough to raise alarms. I installed a small recording device in our living room and Jade's office. It's legal in our state since it's my house too. Thanks for that tip, Reddit. I set up simple security cameras that sent footage to my phone, telling Jade it was for safety while I was on medication. She completely bought it. The recordings proved enlightening. When I wasn't around, they discussed me like I was already gone, like I was just a footnote in their lives, eager to erase me. Jade brought Nelson to our house when I was supposedly at physical therapy. They didn't do anything physical, thank goodness, but seeing them on my couch, sipping my whiskey, chatting about how free she'd soon be took all my strength not to confront them right then. But Ren was clear. I shouldn't reveal my hand until everything was in place. So, I kept smiling and playing the perfect husband, trying to avoid suspicion while documenting their every lie and theft. 3 weeks after my fall, I struck gold. Jade left her email open on our tablet. Inside was a message from her to Zoe with a timeline for the divorce. Wait for Theodore to pay Zoe's tuition deposit for next year due next month. File divorce papers citing irreconcilable differences, plus his drinking issue. Secure an emergency court order to freeze our assets. Push for a quick settlement while he's still dazed from his accident, and move in with Nelson once everything is finalized. They had it all planned out, down to which furniture they'd take. I couldn't sleep, lying next to the woman plotting my destruction, listening to her breathe, and wondering how we got here. 14 years and a child together, and this is where we ended up. The next day marked a turning point. I met with Ren again, and we kicked our plan into high gear. We filed paperwork to protect my assets, established a trust for the money I'd already moved, and documented what Jade had already taken. Then, I began making connections strategically. I happened to run into Nelson's wife, Tatum, at the grocery store, introduced myself as Jade's husband, and saw the shock on her face. She had no idea what was happening between them. We exchanged numbers, which I knew would be useful later. I reached out to Jade's parents, with whom I had always had a good relationship, casually mentioning how confused I'd been about our finances and how worried I was about my memory since the fall, planting seeds of doubt. I also reconnected with old friends, the ones Jade had isolated me from over the years, rebuilding my support network for when the truth finally came to light. Throughout it all, I kept gathering evidence. Every cruel comment they made when they thought I couldn't hear, every text about their plans, every withdrawal from our accounts. 5 weeks after the fall, my cast came off. The doctor said I was healing well. Jade seemed oddly disappointed. That weekend, I overheard her on the phone with Nelson. My improving mobility was disrupting their timeline. She wanted to file the papers sooner. They were worried I might come to my senses and check our finances. Too late, babe. Way too late. By week 6, I had moved 50% of our joint funds to protected accounts and documented over $190,000 that Jade had already taken. I recorded numerous conversations that proved their schemes. I changed the beneficiaries on all my policies, secured my personal documents, and created a complete record of their plot, including the false alcoholic narrative. They suspected nothing. They thought I was just this sad, broken man shuffling around the house, mourning my injury, entirely oblivious to their schemes. The final piece fell into place when Zoe came home for the weekend. I overheard them in the kitchen. Jade was worried the divorce might turn messy despite their preparations. Zoe suggested they find another way to remove me from the picture. Something about making me seem unstable or threatening so they could secure a restraining order. My own daughter was plotting to falsely accuse me of being dangerous just to get more of my money. That was my breaking point. I had been patient and strategic, but hearing that made something inside me snap. I called Ren that night and told her I was done waiting. It was time to execute the final phase. We set a date exactly 2 months after my fall. A symbolic move, I thought. The day they had planned to officially begin their divorce process would instead be the day they learned just how badly they'd underestimated me. I planned a family dinner, telling them I wanted to celebrate my recovery. Jade seemed annoyed but agreed. Zoe said she'd come home for free food, naturally. The table was set, evidence organized, and the trap was ready. Tomorrow night, they'd walk into the dining room expecting the same old Theodore. The pushover, the ATM, the man they had been plotting against for years. Instead, they would confront the man their betrayal created. I can promise you this. It wouldn't be what they anticipated. They thought I was broken, useless, beaten down. But you don't spend 14 years supporting a family, working yourself to exhaustion, sacrificing everything just to roll over when they stab you in the back. They wanted a war? Fine. But they're about to learn they brought a knife to a gunfight. Update coming soon. The dinner is tomorrow night. I'll post what happens once it's all over. Wish me luck, Reddit. Final update. Well, Reddit. It happened. The dinner, the confrontation, the aftermath. Buckle up because this is going to be a long one. I didn't sleep at all the night before, just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to Jade breathe beside me, wondering how someone could sleep so peacefully while plotting to destroy another person's life. The day of the dinner was oddly normal. I went grocery shopping, cleaned the house. Jade kept asking if I needed help cooking, which was hilarious since she hadn't cooked a real meal in years. I told her I wanted to handle it myself, kind of a "look at me, I'm back" thing. She believed it. Zoe arrived around 4 o'clock, giving me this awkward side hug and asking how I felt. The fakeness of it made my skin crawl, but I smiled, responding that I was great. Better than ever, actually. If only she knew how true that was. I prepared all their favorites: roast chicken, those fancy potatoes Jade likes, Zoe's favorite mac and cheese, even baked a chocolate cake from scratch. Cooking one-handed was a challenge, but I managed. The table looked perfect. Candles, nice dishes, wine glasses, the works. What they didn't know was that under my chair was a folder containing everything I discovered about their plans and my phone recording the entire evening. Ren was on standby, ready for my signal. During dinner, they both seemed uneasy, exchanging glances as if wondering why I was so cheerful, or maybe thinking I was clueless, like some lamb waiting for slaughter. Small talk was painful. Zoe spoke about college, and Jade mentioned work drama. I nodded and smiled, playing the part of the oblivious fool they thought I was. When we finished eating, I stood to clear the plates. Jade actually offered to help. First time in months. Charity case, much? That's when I decided it was time. I sat back down and took a deep breath, stating that I had something important to discuss. Both of them grew still, like prey sensing danger. I casually asked Jade if she remembered the day I fell down the stairs. Of course, she said. Such a scary day. I nodded and asked what happened right after I fell. She gave the official story, how she found me unconscious, called for help, and was terrified. Then I asked her a question that froze her in place. What did you say to Zoe while I was lying there? The look on her face was priceless. Pure panic. She stammered something about being scared and not remembering properly. That's when I dropped the first bomb. I told them I had never lost consciousness. I heard every word, every single word. The color drained from both their faces so swiftly I thought they might faint. Zoe started crying instantly, while Jade attempted to deny it, claiming I must be confused due to the concussion. So, I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd made that day, detailing everything they had said, word for word, right after it happened. No, no! Jade yelled, trying to interrupt as I revealed the bank statements first. Accounts she had hidden, the withdrawals, the dates. It was for emergencies. For Zoe's school. She tried to justify herself, but I just laughed and continued. Next came the divorce papers she'd already prepared, the ones claiming I was an alcoholic with anger problems, all dated for the upcoming month. Zoe was full on sobbing now. Jade looked as if she'd seen a ghost. Then came the images of the empty liquor bottles they had planted around the house, their text message conversations, the emails to Nelson. I laid it out piece by piece. 2 months of evidence, 2 months of betrayal documented with painful detail. After I finished, a suffocating silence fell over the room. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Frozen in this awful moment. Then Jade switched tactics, bursting into tears and begging me to give her another chance. I made a terrible mistake. We can work it out. Go to counseling. I still love you. The audacity, considering everything I just revealed to her. I shook my head and told her it was too late. Way too late. That's when I laid out what was going to happen. They had 30 days to move out of my house. It turns out the home legally belongs to me due to an inheritance from my grandmother, predating our marriage. Something they somehow overlooked in their scheming. I had already shifted half of our money into accounts they couldn't touch, and the courts would determine the remainder. My lawyer was confident given Jade's financial tricks. Zoe's college fund, the one they expected me to fill again next month, now had exactly $0 in it. I had moved it to a trust solely under my control. I had already shown Jade's parents the evidence, and they were understandably horrified by both her and Zoe. As for Nelson, Tatum now had copies of all their communications. She comes from serious money and has a prenup that would leave him with nothing if he cheated. I'd file for divorce on the basis of financial fraud and emotional cruelty, not the other way around. Jade went from weeping to screaming, calling me every name imaginable and claiming I was cruel and vindictive. I sat calm, waiting for her to run out of breath. When she finally stopped, I just said, "You did this to yourselves." Then I turned to Zoe, my daughter. That was the hardest part. I told her I would always love her because she's my child, but I didn't like the person she had become. She chose money over family, dishonesty over truth, and there were consequences for those choices. She tried to pin the blame on Jade, saying her mom had pressured her to go along with the plan, but I had the messages to prove otherwise. I told her she was an adult now, and adults faced consequences. She would need to figure out how to pay for school on her own, take out loans like millions of other students, get a job, grow up. The look she gave me was one of pure hatred, as if I were the villain. It hurt, not going to lie, but I remained strong. After all of that, there wasn't much left to say. I told them I'd be going to a hotel for the night to give them time to process everything. My lawyer would be in touch tomorrow with the formal paperwork, and I told them to start packing. As I stood to leave, Jade grabbed my arm, begging me to reconsider. "We can fix this. I made a terrible mistake. I'd do anything." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I felt nothing. The woman I loved for 14 years was a stranger. I told her the most honest thing I could think. There's nothing left to fix. Then I walked out. That was 3 months ago. A lot has happened since then. The divorce is underway. Jade moved in with her sister after Nelson dumped her. Turns out Tatum was serious about that prenup. Zoe took a semester off to figure out her next steps. She's barely talking to me, but her grandparents say she's working at a cafe and saving money for school. I'm still in the house and finally fixed that dang carpet on the stairs. I've been seeing a therapist twice a week to process everything, reconnecting with old friends, and even started casually dating again. Not serious yet, but it's nice to remember there are decent people out there. The hardest part has been coming to terms with the fact that the family I thought I had never truly existed, that the people I sacrificed everything for were conspiring against me for years. Some days, I wake up feeling angry. Other days, I question every memory we shared. But there are also days I feel lighter. Free from the burden of trying to please those who would never be satisfied. Free from the pressure of being the provider, the fixer, the one who kept everything running smoothly. My lawyer says the financial reconciliation will be settled soon, thanks to all the evidence. Jade's claims have mostly been dismissed. I won't get everything back, but I'll get enough to start fresh. Last week, Jade called, asking to meet and talk, saying she had done a lot of thinking and regretting. I haven't figured out whether I'll see her yet. I'm not sure what's left to say. As for Zoe, that wound is still fresh. She's my daughter, and despite everything, I miss her. My therapist advises patience, noting that she's young and was heavily influenced by her mother, that a path back to some sort of relationship might be possible eventually. I hope so, but I'm not counting on it. What I am counting on is myself. For the first time in a long time, I'm living life on my terms, making my own choices, and building something new from the ashes they left behind. They thought I was useless, broken, just an obstacle to remove. Instead, they broke against something they never saw coming, the truth. So that's it, Reddit. The full story of how falling down the stairs saved me from life with people who viewed me as merely a walking ATM. It isn't the happy ending I once envisioned, but perhaps it's the one I needed. Thank you for joining me on this wild ride. Your comments and support have meant the world during my darkest days.